Yes. Any questions? Anyone? Any questions before we can get started? Anyone online, offline? Any questions before we can get started out here?
Yeah, hi Kiran.
Good, please.
Yeah, actually yesterday I saw some in the blob level acquire release and some option I
Right.
saw actually acquire release and break release like that.
Right.
So when I tried that, so we are not able to access anything. We are not able to edit anything. So in
Correct.
what purposes we are use that option actually?
So again, that is something I'll cover when we do terraforms because it's a better example for me to give you. But just to give you a very good, very quick overview out here, is that what Sai is talking about is that when you go to a blob and when you select a blob, there are two different options called acquire lease and break lease. See, generally talking about when you say lease, right? You lease a place, you rent out a place. That's called a lease for a particular period of time. So when you do a lease, you give a contract telling that you know what, this place is going to be mine for let's say so and so years. In the same way, you can hit something called as an acquire lease on a blob. So when I hit acquire lease on a blob, what it means is that I don't want anyone else to make a change on the same blob. Let's say I have some files. I put some files out there. I put some PDF documents in there. I don't want anyone else to come again change that particular document because I am doing some kind of a backend analysis on that particular document and I want the data in the document to be intact. If I don't want anyone to let's say change that, what I can do is that I can hit something called as an acquire lease. You can have something called acquire lease out there, and once you're done, you can hit something called as break lease. So there's an acquire lease and break lease, and the reason that I didn't go into that concept is that it doesn't make a lot of sense if I kind of explain that concept right now. But when we look at terraforms, we'll talk about that in depth, telling what is acquire lease, what is break lease, and all these things.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, any more questions, guys? Anyone, any more questions? How you can move the data into container? Use one container to another container. Best way, use a storage explorer. Take a storage explorer. You can in a storage explorer upload the data from your on-premise, meaning from your laptop to that particular let's say storage account. Same way, what you can do is that you can select all the data, copy it, and move to another container also using a storage explorer. A better way to do it. Don't have to. If you just have a SAS token or an access key, that's good enough. It's enough. That should be enough. And also, you can do it with PowerShell also. You can move data from one container to the other using PowerShell as well, programmatically, which we will be looking at. Is any more questions, guys? All right, so I'll just mute the guys online so that I can get started with this. And guys, if you have a question, please use the chat window. I'll address it once we are into the Q&As. So let's go here. So this is what we were talking about yesterday on what do you mean by PowerShell, and we did a couple of things out here. So let's do a quick recap and then get started with this session today. So in order to write something like an output, guys, what should I do in PowerShell? Write host is something that I need to do. So I'll say write host and space inputs whatever I want to write. I'll say hello world. And if I want to, let's say, change the color of this particular output, I give a space here. Very importantly, there should be a space hyphen foreground color, and I can give some kind of a color out here so that the output kind of changes. And if I want to execute it, this is the button F8 or F5. Hello world. So this is how the output is actually coming in. This is writing an output. My question is that can I read an input from you? I'm giving an output to you. Can I read some data from you and take it onto my console? Now you're what you're doing, you're writing an output, right? When you're doing this, you're giving something to the user. I'm the user. I'm giving something to the user. What am I giving? I'm saying hello world. This is sending an output. Now my question is that, can I take an input from you? Let's say something like, what is your name? I want to take your input as a name. Hello world, I'm giving you something called hello world. Then I'm taking, okay, fine, what is your name? And then I say hi, something like that. So if you want to take an input, when you're giving an output, it is write host. When you're taking an input, it is read hyphen host. Input and the output. So this is the output operation. This is an input operation, is read host. And when I say read host, again the syntax is the same. Read host space. I'll say, what's your name? And give a question mark out here if I do this one. And if I execute this statement, do you see the script is now stuck there, telling what's your name, and it's asking me for an input. And I can say, and now it just prints out your name back. It just prints out your name back out here, telling that what's your name. It's giving Kiran, and it is giving my name back out here. Now what I want to do is that, as and when someone enters their name, I want to run a complete script telling that hello world, then next asking what's your name, then something like, what, good morning or good night Kiran, or something like that. Good morning, welcome Kiran, or something like that, right? What I can do is that, instead of the script just printing my name, I want to hold my name into a variable, or I want to hold my name inside a parameter. So what I can do is that, normally, how do you declare a parameter in PowerShell, guys? Dollar, yes, exactly. Dollar name. I'll say dollar name, and I can say dollar name is equal to, what is the name? Where is the name coming from? That read host statement. So I'll say dollar name is equal to read host. So I'm telling whatever that user enters, take this as an input, store it in this particular value. Then I'll say, I can do one more thing called write host. I'll say to welcome to partial. I'll say dollar name. So if I execute this end to end, this is how it will look like. Hello world, what's your name? I'll say Ravi. Now it's telling welcome to partial Ravi. This is how usually programs actually work. When you look at chat bots and all that stuff, right? They'll ask you for your name and all that stuff. So they'll have a program in the background that actually runs out here, which will give you all these inputs and output operations. So what I'm doing in the first line is that I'm going and doing an output called hello world. Then I'm using a parameter telling dollar name is equal to read host. So whatever that you write here, say I put something called Ravi here, whatever that I write here will be assigned to this particular value, or will be assigned to this particular parameter called dollar name. So I'm storing a value out here. So I'm storing a value called Ravi inside this particular thing called dollar name out here. And in the line, let's say in the last line, I'm going ahead, I'm saying, okay, fine, welcome to partial, whatever is the name that you put in. So if here I put in some different name out here called Suresh, selling what's your name, I'll say Suresh. So whatever you give it, it will just go again. I mean, it'll just go back and give it to you as an output. This is how a read host statement can actually be working. This is how a read host can actually be implemented out here. So I'm now using write host and read host statements together to give me a very simple program that gives you a welcome message. That's it. This is how it's kind of working together out here. Yes. Any questions still here? Anyone? Any questions still here? Uh, anyone? Any questions still here that I can take? So we did a write host. Now we just extended that particular knowledge, and we are now telling what a read host really is and what a read host can actually do out here. And read host is used to take an input from a user, and once you get an input, you can use that input in a different statement, or you can use that input in a different line of your script. Try to use it and all that stuff. Now we were also looking at something called as data types yesterday. I said there is something called string, there is something called array, there is something called hash table and all these things out. So let's get there. Let's get into something called as data types. And when I put a hash here, what does it mean? Comments just for user. It's like notes for user to read what exactly it is. And the first data type that I'm actually interested into is something called as what? A string. A string is a single object. Anything which is single number, single name, it's called as a string. And I can do something like this. I can say $x is equal to then. This can be anything, ABC, XYZ, whatever it is. I just gave dollar name because I'm passing a name, so it makes some meaning to it. So I'm just saying some name out here and etc. This can be anything out here. Again, these are the lines that I don't want. I can, this is just a demo. So these are the lines that I don't want. I can comment it out. And if I want to comment it out, if I want to comment multiple lines out here, less than hash and hash greater than, commenting multiple lines out together out here right now. So now I'm saying this is, let's say in place of $x, I can also say dollar name. I can say $x, $y, $a, b, c, whatever it is, I'm okay with it. I can say dollar name is equal to something like Kiran out here. I'm giving something called Kiran. And I can say right hyphen host. And I can say my name is, instead of giving Kiran, I'll say dollar name. And if I execute it, if I execute these two lines out here, this is the output that I get. My name is Kiran. This is the input. This is the output. I can have one more variable out here telling that dollar location. And I'll say Hyderabad. So I can say my name is dollar name. I belong to dollar location. Exactly. I'm just using multiple things out here telling that okay fine, my name is dollar name. Dollar name has a value called Kiran. Dollar location has a value called HYD Hyderabad. And if I execute these two things, or if I execute these set out here, I'll get something called my name is Kiran. I belong to Hyderabad out here. This is a very simple explanation, or this is a very easiest application of multiple parameters inside a same string using something called as a right host statement. And of course, you can change the color of this output by using a foreground color flag or a foreground color argument, and you can get something like green or something like this. So if I execute this again, it's telling me my name is Kiran. I belong to HYD Hyderabad out here. So you can change your foreground colors and all these things out here. This is something that you can be using. This is a simple string, a single object out here. Now my question is that how do you declare an array? What or how exactly is an array declaration? Multiple objects, multiple names, let's say multiple integers and etc. That is now called as an array or an array list. You can either call it as an array or an array list out here. Anything is okay with me. Now my question is that how do you declare the array? What is the declaration of the array? At the rate open and close parentheses. I can say dollar names is equal to at the rate open close parenthesis. I can tell Kiran, Suresh, and Ravi, something like this. I can have values separated by commas into quotes. This is now an array. And if I now execute this particular array, so dollar names is equal to at the rate something. And if I say what is in dollar names, then Suresh and Ravi. Now, what do I do with this? Do I just store this value? No. What do I do with this? What I can do is I can say write hyphen host, and I can say what? My name is dollar names. Can I pass this? Can I say dollar names out here? So if I do that, what will happen? Let's see this. How is this statement coming? My name is Kiran, Suresh, and Ravi. What I am expecting is that I am expecting three lines. First line to be my name is Kiran, second line to be my name is Suresh, third line to be my name is Ravi. I want three different lines out here. But the issue with this is that write host considers anything to be a string. It doesn't take array list out here. It doesn't really take array list. If you want to understand the documentation of write host, just say write hyphen host and just go to Google browser and say write hyphen host PowerShell. It will give you an entire documentation on what really write host is and what you can do with write host, what you cannot do with write host, and etc. It will also give you multiple examples on how do you do write host and all these things out. So let's just look at this one. And very importantly, a write host accepts strings only. It's only a string. I cannot pass an array directly to it. If I end up passing it, it won't give you an error, but it will also not give you a proper output. It will also not give you, let's say, a proper output out here. So this is what I am expecting to do. This is what I want to do. Now, what I want to do is that what I want to tell PowerShell is that in a very simple English, I want to tell PowerShell that you know what? Please execute this statement three times. Please execute it three times. For the first time, take Kiran as a name. For the second time, take Suresh as the name. For the third time, take Ravi as this particular name. So what I'm telling this in a very high level view is that for each and every name that you see in this particular array, for each and every name in this particular array, please make sure to run this statement thrice in a loop. I'm asking this to loop it out. What do you mean by loop? Repeat it again and again until all these three names are satisfied. Until you go ahead and say, my name is Kiran, my name is Suresh, my name is Ravi. And in order to do that, I will have to loop this statement out. I will have to loop it out. What do I mean by loop it out? I have to, let's say, run it multiple times again and again. I'll have to, let's say, loop this out. And this is where I introduce looping or iterations. Iteration as in like multiple times, run it multiple times as such. Looping, same thing out here. It tells you the same thing as such. And I would like to introduce a looping statement, or I would like to introduce a looping function. Go ahead, please. Sorry. You can give a serial wise. You can say, my name is Kiran, my name is Suresh, my name is Ravi. Yes. Yes. As in like something like this you're telling, is it? Like, hmm? Mhm. Okay. Something like this you're telling? Like this? Let's do that as well. Let's do that as well. So I'll put the same thing, but I just change the, let's say, way it looks like. Let's understand how the variable treats it, or let's understand how the parameter treats it first, and let's look at how the statement treats it. So now I'm telling PowerShell the dollar name is Kiran. After that, I say Suresh. After that, I say Ravi. This is how you wanted me to pass it. And if I say names, is there a change between earlier and now? No matter how many spaces you give, no matter what you give, it'll just consider this open and this close bracket. Everything is an array. Now, if I do the same thing out here right now, any change you see? Nothing. No change. Because it's still considering this to be a string and it's giving it, let's say, in a single line out here, which is not an expected output for me. So I cannot do this. That's the reason I'm telling that this statement needs to be looped, or the statement needs to repeat itself. I'll need to loop this statement out, and that is where I will introduce a loop called for each. I'm telling a loop called now for each out here, which is now a function in PowerShell, which will help you run a couple of statements or run a particular statement multiple times depending upon what kind of a condition you give it out here. And I need this statement called write host to run for each and every name. That's the reason I'm calling this loop as a for each loop. Let's understand the syntax. Let's understand what do we get out here. Let's go there and give me one quick second. Let's see if there is any chat out here. Let's see this. Okay, great. Let's go here and let's understand what this is. Again, I'll just minimize this particular screen so that I can show you all what exactly that I'm writing out here. So let's go here and let's start writing something called for each. The syntax of for each, there is a syntax that this particular language follows, is open close parenthesis. Here you give a condition on what is the array you need to, let's say, iterate over, or what is the array you need to run this particular for each loop on. And then you have something called open and close our brackets. So there are two things out here. Any loop in, let's say, PowerShell follows the syntax. The name of the loop followed by open and close parentheses, followed by open and close parentheses out here, inside which you go ahead and tell what is the condition, and then followed by open and close flower brackets. Anything, kind of follows the same pattern out here. And I'll say for each dollar name, I'm taking a dummy value in dollar names. What am I telling is that for each name in this particular names, this can be anything for each X, for each Y, whatever it is, just a temporary value out here. I will say right host, my name is, now I won't take dollar names, rather I will take dollar Y. Y is, or why am I taking dollar Y, or why am I taking anything that I declare here? Let's see that. So let's comment this out for now because this is outside the loop, and let's execute this one right now. This is the expected output. This is what we are actually looking at. What exactly happened is this. Here, when I executed that particular for each loop out here, when I did a loop out here, the loop is asking a couple of things out here. This is now the looping syntax. The loop is asking a couple of things. Firstly, it's asking what is the condition that I need to, let's say, look for, or what is the array that I need to look for. Secondly, what is the statement you want me to run, and how many times you want me to run is something that is declared here. So what really happens is this. Let's check this out. Now, the very first time when this loop gets executed, you have dollar names is equal to Kiran, Suresh, and Ravi. Out of this, I'm telling very first time, take the name called Kiran and assign it to a value called dollar $y. This is now my temporary value called dollar $y out here. And then inside the loop, I am telling right host, my name is dollar $y. So it becomes what? My name is Kiran out here. This is what it becomes. Now the loop will tell, okay, fine, the first time I'm done. Let's look at the array right now. And it'll tell, okay, fine, this name is striked out. I'm done with this. But I still have Suresh and Ravi. Second time when I come, I'll take the value called Suresh, assign it to what? Dollar $y again for the second time. Then when I run this, it'll become what? My name is Suresh. Third time Suresh will get, let's say, striked out. We'll take Ravi, assign it to, let's say, Y, and then execute the same thing once again, telling my name is Ravi out here for the third time. When I do it for three times, it's the fourth time it'll come. It'll see, okay, fine, Ravi is also not there. I have executed everything that is there inside this names array. I'll exit this particular loop. I'm done with this. This is how a loop actually works. So it plays the same thing again and again, but for different values, because you have a condition here telling that, okay, fine, please take the first value, please take the second value, please take the third value, and so on and so forth. Any questions still here? Anyone? Any questions still? We, if we did not give flower brackets, sorry. Okay. Again, very simple. If you give me a phone number, I take out a number from it and give you a call. Will that particular call get connected to you? Simple. This is a syntax. If you don't give a flower bracket out here, it will throw an error. And if I execute this out here, you have to talk to it in a language of PowerShell. So when you do that error, there are more than a million of commands. So literally there are uncountable commands. PowerShell is expanding. Any programming language is the same thing. So how many commands? There are literally, if you look at the documentation of PowerShell itself runs into 10,000 pages. That's how many commands that you have. Each and every page will have, let's say, multiple commands out here. So that's how many commands you have. Do you need to learn all those commands? No. You need to learn the logic, not the command. You need to just understand the logic behind it, not the command. If you start reading the commands, you will end up doing a PhD on PowerShell. Don't do that. We just need to learn PowerShell. That's it. Or we need to just improve our logic. So it depends upon, again, the question is that how many logics are there? Completely depends upon someone who writes a logic. Like it can be, my logic can be in one way, your logic can be in one way. The reason that I told you in the first class is that I don't want to teach PowerShell to you. I want to improvise your logic. I want to, let's say, let you think something. You think about your logic. You think how can you achieve a logic out here. It's just like playing a game of chess, just improving your logic out there. You can, make a move. I can make a move. Your move is right, my move is right. You're not wrong, I'm not wrong. Same thing applies here in PowerShell as well. It's just about improvising your logic. So don't be running behind the commands. Command is just a way to achieve your logic. See how you can achieve your logic. Mhm. So if I just let's say hover out here, yes, 22. So it's just telling that after this I get an error. Or let's come here into this one. It just tells at line 7, but it's actually not line 7. But what PowerShell does is that PowerShell doesn't understand all these commands. So it doesn't consider all these to be, let's say, lines. And it tells you that, yes, technically this is line 7, character 22 out here. This is where your error is coming out. But you actually go here and look at your script. PowerShell will also tell you what is something that you're missing out here. That's how you need to identify the error. If you take 5 names, yes, we'll look at that too. Let's come here. I take 5 names. I'll take something like Mahesh or something like this. And if I execute this once again, I'm not changing my logic. I'm just changing my array. Let's do a CLS. And here also I put another loop, so which is not required. Let's do one thing. Let's run this out again. Because the condition that you're giving is this: for each $y in dollar names. This is the condition that we are giving. And in this condition, it's just going again to each and every name. Now it said, okay, fine, I'll need to run 5 times. First time I'll do, let's say, Kiran. Second time I'll do, let's say, Surya. Second, third time Ravi. Fourth time Mahesh. Fifth time Ramesh out here. And it is executing for each and every name, and it is giving you this particular statement out here. This is how it's treating it out.